Okay, I'm Fergus McNeill, Professor of Criminology and Social Work at the University of Glasgow. My talk cheated a little bit. I took the what is justice theme and I narrowed it to asking questions about what kind of goods justice exists to promote, and then narrowed it a little bit further to the question of what kind of goods criminal sanctions exist to promote. The aim being to try and get away from a sense that criminal sanctions merely exist to try to prevent or reduce harms. So the argument was that if we try to imagine what we want criminal sanctions to bring about in terms of positive goods for society and for the individuals affected, it draws us into a kind of deeper deliberation, both about the forms of sanctions that we would apply and about the kinds of societies in which we want to live. So the argument is that negative expressions of penal power, repressive, incapacitating sanctions which exact retribution by imposing harms on people, ultimately damage those people and therefore damage their capacity to lead a good life as a good citizen in a good community. And so to avoid those unintended consequences of negative expressions of penal power, we should look to positive forms of sanction which have at their heart a capacity to build people, to enable human flourishing, to facilitate human development, I guess I have to say to support resistance, and to build towards social integration. And I argued that social integration has elements which are personal, about the development of the individual; social, about the reaction and acceptance of the community; judicial, which has to do with the legal position of the re-qualified citizen; and moral, which has to do with the settling of debts, both the offender's debt to the community in relation to the offence, and often the state and the community's debt to the offender, which flows both from the obligation to take into account social factors which might have led to offending and to recognise the duty to limit punishment. So essentially I was trying to argue that we should measure criminal sanctions by their capacity to build a better integrated society rather than by their capacity merely to reduce reoffending or other forms of harm.